Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and basically this week was Ted Bundy week for me, as I got a chance to watch the limited documentary series on Netflix, Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, and then I got to watch Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is the new Netflix original film that was originally going to be just released in theaters, and then Netflix bought up distribution rights for it. And this is starring Zac Efron as Ted Bundy and directed by Joe Berlinger. And I was really excited for this film. I thought this would be a cool new kind of role for Zac Efron, and which it was. This film was definitely out of Zac Efron's wheelhouse when it came to films like The Greatest Showman, because he has background in musicals with High School Musical and Neighbors and just pure comedy. Ted Bundy is such an interesting person and so creepy, and it's so unsettling because the idea of like this was an attractive man, an extremely intelligent man, very clever, conniving, and like he did absolutely horrendous things that were shocking, extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. And you go into this film expecting something really special. They have such a great story to sink their teeth into, and a lot of it felt rushed and felt boring, honestly. And it's just like, a film about Ted Bundy shouldn't really be boring, and that concerned me. And it felt like it glossed over certain things, and then it was interesting watching this docuseries, which was very factual and how things laid out, and then watching this film and seeing how obnoxiously condensed it was, and how they shifted things around for a dramatic point of view and showing the film. I think Zac Efron does a really good job. He really gives it his all to this role, and that's very commendable of him because he's the most interesting part of this film. Something about his casting, though, they really leaned heavily onto, like, he was an attractive man, so how could he do these things? I don't feel like this film really showed enough that he was really, really intelligent and conniving and was able to make people feel a certain way and convince them of certain things, and that's how he got away with a lot of what he did. And I don't know if Zac Efron really was able to portray that so well. Or was that really not written as well into this film? And that could definitely be it. But he really did balancing. There's a couple moments where he's the most fascinating part of this film, but they don't dig into him enough. They spend a lot of time with his ex, played by Lily Collins, Liz Kendall, and I felt like, I understand this was supposed to be like the emotional anchor that was supposed to connect him to people, but it didn't really work for me, and after a while she just got over this top. I'm like, I'm still in love with him. And like Haley Joel Osment's in it playing this guy who's with her now, and he's just a nice guy trying to do nice guy things. Seems like such a nice guy, and then of course she ignores him, and it's really cliched, and I felt like this film leaned too much into cliched story points where it could be really focusing on Ted Bundy and really getting a sense of digging into him, because there's parts where you do see this darkness, and it probably takes until the very end of the film for you to really see into this dark side of him. And I felt like that was the biggest thing that this film missed out on, was being that engrossing and engaging, looking at that, but they just basically ignored it. And you see the film from enough of a perspective where it's like, he's like, I didn't do these things, I'm being set up, but not enough to him really seeing how he ticks. And I didn't really care much about him, nor did, and from like a film perspective, obviously it's like Ted Bundy like brutally murdered a bunch of people, and it's just like, I'm not going to feel too much sympathy for you. But from you watching a film perspective and him being your main character, it's just like, it's hard for me to connect with you because they really just show him on a surface level. And you don't really connect with Liz a whole lot either, because she's so flat as a character, and there's particular moments in this film where it's like, okay, this could be extremely interesting. And there's some great dialogue at points, like his banter with John Malkovich, who's the judge in Florida. Like, those are some fun moments, but it's like, felt like this film kind of missed out on focusing on the things that would make this the most interesting from what they were trying to do. If you're trying to make us feel interested in Ted Bundy, then spend more time on Ted Bundy. And that was my biggest thing about this film. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. It really captured this era. And they did a great job of making this period piece. But when it really came down to it, it's just kind of... and there's no technical aspects of that made it really special either. So honestly, I was disappointed by this film. It's a pretty straightforward, standard, true crime period piece then. And if you're really into those things, you'll probably enjoy this film. If you wanted something a little bit more, you'll probably be disappointed too. But this is on Netflix. You can easily just watch it. It did feel long. Despite the fact that they rushed so much in this film, it felt long. And that's how I feel. And those are my thoughts on Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. Let me know what you think. And highly recommend the limited documentary series on Netflix, Conversation with a Killer. It's roughly around 4 hours total, the series. It's worth your time. If you're going to pick one of them to spend time on, double down on the documentary series, because I feel like you'll probably get more out of it. But those are my thoughts, and let me know what you think. And thank you as always for supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.